Hi, I'm Jeff Christian, and welcome to Beyond the Basics in Retirement. It's my take on retirement planning from 35 years of experience as a retirement planner and what you need to consider really from A to Z. I stress consider because some of these topics definitely are worth looking into in greater detail, but this is a great place to get you started. And so if you're recently retired or planning to retire, this is an excellent place for you to be. It's going to be like the proverbial fire hose experience, so hold on to your pencil with one hand and your seat with the other. Over my career, I've taught a lot of workshops on finance and even a college course at the University of New Orleans on retirement. But by writing my own content, I'm able to provide tips and ideas beyond the plain vanilla stuff you normally get. And I'll share ideas and concepts learned from experience, and yes, I'll admit it, my mistakes and the mistakes of others. The older I get, the more figures of speech make sense to me. Are you that way? I guess it's that the more of life that I live, the easier it is to see how figures of speech apply. One of my favorites is knowledge is power. I'll say it again, knowledge is power. And friends, if ever there was a universal truth, that is one. So let's get going and get some power to you. I want to begin by talking about the power of retirement planning and the formal retirement planning process, because I've seen time and again that the quality of retirement is directly related to the quality of planning that you do. So let me start by asking you a question. What's your dream? What's your vision for retirement? What does your personal retirement look like? Do you have realistic goals? Can you list them? Retirement is a totally new place in life, and it should be viewed as such. It's like moving to another country, starting a new career, or beginning to have children. The more you investigate, the more you plan, the more knowledgeable you'll be, and the greater the likelihood of getting the retirement that you want. I want to compliment you on viewing this workshop. It says a lot about where you are in getting it right. You better believe CEOs have written business plans. Ship captains carefully chart their courses on nautical maps, and doctors have written treatment plans for patients. What these responsible and productive people have in common is that they have formal plans that provide them with directions and a process. All of our lives, we've heard that we're more likely to achieve our goals if they're put in writing, right? And that's certainly the case with getting the retirement that you want. A written plan is a formal guide. It's a discovery tool. It helps you to gather and organize data pertaining to who you are and define and measure your resources. It allows you to do forecasting and project what it will take to retire financially. The plan uncovers and prepares for obstacles that can compromise progress and cost you lost opportunity. Bear in mind, the primary purpose of a retirement plan is to make sure that you can continue the same standard of living that you experienced in your working years, in your retirement years. The plan provides control, confidence, and security. Planning begins with determining and establishing the facts. Remember Sergeant Friday? Just the facts? Facts pertaining to your unique identity. Because facts clearly reveal reality, and reality is a necessity in retirement planning and retirement finances. The facts as to what you have, what you want, and what actions are necessary to get your unique retirement dream. I've seen mishandled facts and mishandled identity quite a bit in my career. Here's a good example. I met a couple, let's just call them Jerry and Helen, in 2006. And in the course of the discovery process and getting to know them and who they were and what their objectives were, what they had, and so forth and so on, it became evident quickly that they likely had not accumulated enough to see them through in their retirement. So we had to have a pretty serious discussion about that. But they were responsible, conscientious people. And so I said, what happened, guys? And Jerry said, well, I retired in 1999 and I turned my company-sponsored retirement account over to a young stockbroker at a major national financial firm. And he took my money and he put it all into technology stocks. Well, we all know what happened, don't we, friends? The tech bubble burst, and the technology sector went way down. Jerry and Helen lost a lot of money. Now, my point about identity here is that what happened in this case was the young stockbroker invested Jerry and Helen's money as if it were his and not theirs. So see, understanding your identity, making sure you follow it and you subscribe to it is very important in retirement finances. Now, here's some key elements in creating a retirement plan. It's big to start with income and cash flow. That's the foundation. Next, managing portfolio assets, Social Security planning, tax strategies, healthcare costs, and estate planning. It should consider the unexpected, like economic uncertainty and family emergencies. Those are critical in creating your plan. And it should provide for contingencies such as needing to retire before you want to, or actually living longer than you expect to. The planning process provides a couple an opportunity for quality communication to make sure that they consider what each one wants and expects, to make sure that they're like-minded. This is so important. The plan reduces misunderstanding and stress and assists the couple as a team to formally agree. Over time, the plan provides a foundation to return to measure effectiveness and provide for new challenges that may arise. Now, creating a plan can be an eye-opener because it shows, yes, I do have enough to see me through, or no, I don't, and I need to make sacrifices now for the long term. Formal planning provides you with knowledge, and knowledge is power. Now, I want to say that it's important for you to retire to something, not from something, and the plan goes a long way toward ensuring success in that. Boston College's Center for Retirement says that most retirees had done some planning, but only 16% have developed formal written plans. Some people spend more time planning summer vacation than they do retirement. How about you? You may have a little or you may have a lot to work with. Either way, you need retirement planning based on who you are and what you have to work with. And I can help you to make the best of it. The most important thing is thorough planning to make the best of what you have. How much time and thought have you actually given to developing your retirement plan? What tools have you developed to prove that you're ready for the retirement that you hope for? I know it's a cliche, but it's important regarding this. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And so I really want to encourage you to not sell yourself short by not creating a formal, written retirement plan. Let's look at what you need to do for retirement income planning. Income planning is the heart of retirement planning because income is what makes everything else possible. It is the wind in the sail of retirement. Once again, I'm going to say, primary purpose of income planning is to make sure that you maintain the same lifestyle and keep you in your same world as you experienced in your working years. To start your planning, you'll need to spend time with a year's worth of checkbook entries and credit card statements to understand what your needs are. The facts are located in your checkbook and credit card statements. Use a spreadsheet to compile the necessary facts so that you will be thorough. Something like this. Also, in your needs planning, be sure to forecast future major ongoing expenses like automobiles and home maintenance. You should also consider technical obsolescence and budget for it, for necessities like phones, computers, TVs, and other technology that evolves over time. and becomes obsolete. You certainly will want to get all the new stuff. You want a reasonable cash cushion for emergencies and unforeseen expenses. Now, traditional financial planning calls for 3 to 6 months of income in an account like that. And it's a great idea. In fact, it's an excellent time to be realistic about the support that you're providing for your adult children at this point in time and begin to take steps to eliminate it if possible. Okay, so your basic expenses cover your needs, and they cover the lifestyle that you had during your working years. So you certainly have to have those covered. But most of us also have recreational and travel wants in retirement. These require cash flow that you likely haven't experienced. Let me ask you, when do we normally spend more money? The weekend, right? Well, every day in retirement is like the weekend. You'll want to estimate your recreation and travel costs and forecast them based on what I refer to as a retirement activity timeline. The years following retirement are considered go-go years because you're at your best health and your peak activity. Next, following that are the slow-go years, where you'll tend to reduce the pace and stay closer to home. The final phase are the no-go years because health and energy just naturally require us to become more sedentary. Financial timelines are a great way to forecast your personal financial future in retirement. Now that you know how much you'll need to fund both needs and wants annually over your activity timeline, the next step is to study your guaranteed income sources to determine how best they will meet your needs. Certain assets are tailor-made for income, like Social Security, pensions, rental properties, annuities, and life insurance dividends. Examine each one closely to determine how best to maximize it. Some things to consider in your study are reliability, tax policy, inflation, and ease of management. Now, knowing what your guaranteed income sources will provide and having them structured to provide in the best ways that they can, you're now going to want to calculate the gap between what those guaranteed income sources provide and what your total annual need is. Okay? Then you total all of the expenses of the gap over your lifetime, over your lifespan, if you will, your projected lifespan, and then you use time value of money calculations to figure out the lump sum necessary, that big number in year one that you'll need to fill the gap annually over your life expectancy. What's that big number that you'll need at the onset to see you through? Don't forget to account for inflation. It's a big factor. The purpose of this process is simply to make sure that you've accumulated enough to likely see you through. Now, you'll need income planning software to help with the inflation and the time value of money calculations. There's a lot of it available on the web. However, a financial planner will do the math and also help you to be in reality about where you stand financially to make sure you cover all the bases. And lastly, you'll need a process and a strategy for utilizing and spending down the retirement assets that you accumulated to fill the gap. I'm going to discuss asset spend down strategies in our next segment on managing retirement assets. I want to discuss the importance of guaranteed income in retirement. Experts recommend the importance of having 50 to 60% of guaranteed income from sources like pensions and Social Security. If you don't have a pension, you'll likely need to create one. Today, many people use an annuity. It's important when you develop your income plan that you develop this base of guaranteed income because it's not tied to the performance of the stock market, interest rates, or the loss of any type of an asset. The guaranteed stable income allows you to sleep at night and avoid rash decisions. And frankly, it takes pressure off of your portfolio to always perform perfectly. I call the guaranteed income mailbox income because, like the mail, it just comes consistently. When it comes to retirement income, sleeping at night, stability, and peace of mind are the name of the game. Okay, so we've examined a lot involved in getting retirement income right. Earlier, I mentioned volatility and the importance of being in reality about your planning. And so it may be that at this point in your planning, once you've crunched the numbers and done the calculation, you decide that it's going to be necessary for you to reestablish your retirement date, push it down the road a little bit, because you honestly aren't sure that your assets will outlive you. It's far better to make the smart decision to stay on the job another year or two to provide the security to see you through. According to Stanford University, staying on the job can have a significant impact. Working just 6 additional months provides the same financial boost as saving an additional 1% annually for 30 years. Going back to work at age 80 is almost impossible. And the only thing worse than not living long enough is outliving your money. Now, may these forces not be with you. By now, y'all see I'm kind of a movie buff. Y'all remember those words were from Darth Vader? May the force be with you. Well, here are some forces to reckon with that may impact your income in retirement. Market volatility, interest rate risk, inflation risk, technological obsolescence, tax policy, healthcare costs, and demands from family members. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, is quoted as saying that time is your friend and impulse is your enemy. Time is your friend, impulse is your enemy. Experience has taught me that the more time and consideration you put into your income plan, the more it will take care of you. Is your income plan for retirement one that makes sense and one that you feel good about? If you need help with it, I'm here to guide you in getting it right. Let's talk about managing portfolio assets in retirement. I think we will all agree that one of the major concerns retirees have is managing portfolio type assets. While you were working and funding your IRAs and your 401ks, it was easy investing because you were in the accumulation phase of managing assets and there wasn't really much skill to it. You bought shares of various investments by dollar cost averaging through payroll deduction or perhaps on a bank draft on your checking account, which is really a foolproof way and highly recommended way to accumulate. Most of you, as you approach retirement, transition from stocks to bonds for stability, or you use target date funds that made that shift for you. Accumulating it was easy, right? It was effortless. You dollar cost average. But now in the utilization phase, you need strategy to provide the income and spend down your assets if necessary. It would be wonderful if we could just use easy and stable investments like CDs or bonds to provide income. But because we are in and have been in a low interest rate environment, it takes a lot of principle using investments like these. Most of us will need to continue to manage stocks and bonds to create the income and try to maintain our balances through some growth, or at least not spend them down too quickly and run the risk of running out of money. We're going to need to utilize and depend on capitalism and the system of stocks and bonds that supports that great institution and our global economy. The issue, the problem we face, I'm going to call it the 800-pound gorilla in the room that retirees have to deal with, is technically known as sequence of return risk. And it's an ongoing challenge with any portfolio that we need to periodically harvest from for income purposes. It's a challenge because of the rise and the fall and the cyclical nature of all types of investments. Stocks, bonds, real estate, precious metals, commodities, everything cycles. There are a lot of things in life that cycles, in fact. The earth turns every 24 hours. We have winter, spring, summer, fall. The tide rolls in, the tide rolls out. And then the economy cycles. Peak, trough, recovery, expansion, recession. Life is full of cycles, friends. Cycles are a big part of investing, and sequence of returns are greatly affected by market cycles. Here are some examples that will help you to understand the issues that I'm talking about that involve sequence of return risk. Now, in my first example, I'm showing you a retiree who was using a portion of their portfolio in the S&P 500. And I'm illustrating taking income off of that portfolio. And I'm illustrating withdrawing a 6% withdrawal rate. And since, the S&P 500 has averaged over 8.5%, historically, it's safe to think that we could sustain a 6% withdrawal rate. So I'm showing 6% withdrawal rate here, and then I'm inflating that withdrawal by 3% to account for inflation. And I did this example in 2019, and so I just used the actual historical performance of the S&P 500 for 25 years prior to that point in time. And look at the bottom line here, friends. This retiree fared very well. They maintained their principal, and they had a little bit of an overage at that point in time, after the 25-year period of time. And so they made the withdrawal at 6%, and they averaged an actual 8.5% rate of return. They averaged that. Now, in my second example, on the left side of the page, all you're looking at there are the same numbers that we just looked at in the last slide. Okay. Now, on the right side of that page, what I'm illustrating is if we had simply reversed the sequence of returns that the actual investor experienced historically. I mean, hey, this is a what-if scenario, if you will. What if the returns had been exactly opposite what they were? That's possible, right? The returns could actually have been these returns just as easily. So when we reverse the sequence of returns and we do the math on that, using the same parameters that we used before, well, this investor doesn't fare nearly as well. They actually ran out of money in year 23. Sequence of returns risks are very real, friends. Now, I want to point out, too, the average rate of return was 8.5%. The average rate of return here was 8.5%. Now, even though the averages were the same, what the investor experienced was vastly different. Let me take it one step further and show you an example where I can find it. Bear with me, please. So in this example, our retiree retired at the worst possible time. I'm going to call this kind of worst possible scenario, if you will. But this shows the retiree who actually retired in 1999 and what they experienced making those demands on the portfolio. Well, you can see that because of the returns in their first few years of retirement, it was devastating on their portfolio, and they actually ran out of money in year 14. This, by the way, is a good illustration of the folks that I talked about in the first workshop, Jerry and Helen, and what they experienced when the young stockbroker mismanaged their identity and put them into a bunch of real risky stocks at the worst possible time. The bottom line really with sequence of return is that we can't be certain about the sequence of return on any market-based type asset. There's no predictability. A good strategy to help you with sequence of return risk is what I refer to as a bucket strategy. And with a bucket strategy, I divide the money into, in this case, 4 buckets. Each bucket is going to be invested in a different type of portfolio. They're not actually buckets, obviously, they're 4 different accounts. But the point being is the sooner that we need the money, the more conservatively we invest it. Therefore, when markets go down, the money that we need in the short run isn't affected. So that's our bucket number 1, totally safe. In the second bucket, we can afford to be a little bit more aggressive in our management of the portfolio because it's a bit longer term. Third bucket, even more aggressive. Fourth bucket could be all stocks. Point here is that we have separated the money based on the time frame as to when we need it. Now, this can also be a very helpful tool in helping to manage your emotions in retirement. By using time-specific diversified portfolios and not putting yourself into a position of fire-selling assets, you actually manage the threat of sequence of return risk. By avoiding principal, we create significant opportunity. In other words, by not losing, we gain. I also want to recommend that you maintain a home equity line of credit, which can provide you access to stable money at an important time in the event of a downturn in the market and you need liquidity at that point in time. What process do you use to manage your retirement savings? Processes are important because processes provide control. Managing retirement assets doesn't have to be burdensome or a threat. My process can work for you, providing peace of mind. We've talked a lot about finances, but there's so much more to retirement than finances. Finances are about making it happen. Lifestyle is about what actually happens. Lifestyle is about what you make of it, what you do with it, and what you allow retirement to do to you. Finances are just the means to an end. Lifestyle is what actually proves a successful retirement. You want to retire to something, not from something. To get it right at first, you may have to expend a lot of effort. Challenge yourself in ways that you never have. Become a risk taker. Take some chances. You may have to force yourself to do uncertain, awkward things at first. Learn new skills, use new muscles, form new relationships, stretch your comfort zone. This is the second half of your game. How will you play it out? With purpose and meaning, good health or decline. Develop and expand friends or fade away. Will you give time now that you have time to give? Will your children and grandchildren grow and gain value in knowing you? Will you go the extra mile to develop the resources to experience your retirement dreams? You're going to need to be deliberate in the ways that govern successful retirement and to jump on it from the get-go, right off the bat. You can't afford to delay because, after all, it's quality of life that you're gaining. I'll grant you that some of you may have found yourself in somewhat of a rut leading up to retirement, just trying to get to the finish line. The demands of career, family, and getting older are a challenge. You may find yourself dissatisfied with life because you just didn't manage to develop the life you'd hoped. But it's a brand new day. It's a brand new world. And now's your chance to have life the way you want it. Retirement lets you start over if you seize the opportunity. Remember, it's important to retire to something, not from something. Start creating quality of life right now. Get your diet in a healthy place. Start an exercise program that you can build on. Find a social or charitable organization that you can have meeting and fellowship in. Develop those hobbies you've always wanted. You're simply investing in the quality of your future. The more you invest in yourself leading up to and early in retirement, the easier the transition will be. And friends, there is an important transition. Because we've all heard of a person, usually a man, whose entire life is wrapped up in their work and they don't know what to do with themselves when they retire. They just fade away. Will that be you? It doesn't have to be. In my career, I've had the opportunity to observe some folks who've done it right and were very successful in quality of life. And without reservation, money wasn't the major factor, purpose was. So ask yourself, what is purpose like for me? What will you put your hand to? What will you give yourself to? More than ever, as you age, you need to have purpose and you need to get into the habit of maintaining it. When you get old and you realize that you need it but you don't have it, it will be too late. My father was a very purpose-driven person, and he fished a lot. But on his deathbed, within a half hour, twice he told me, son, you have to make time for fishing. You have to make time for fishing. Now, I've come to understand that you have to make time for and be deliberate of quality of life in your retirement. We've all heard of assets and liabilities, but I believe in retirement that there are assets, liabilities, and resources. I'm going to challenge you to take some time to figure out your unique resources, write them down, and manage them like any asset that you own. Resources take many forms, and knowingly or unknowingly, you've developed them over time. It's important to examine what you have to work with and be creative in it. Formally define and list your resources based on who you are. Here are some examples that I've jotted. For some, a sizable portfolio is a resource. For others, the ability to live beneath their means is a resource. For some, long-term care insurance is a resource. For others, a close-knit family who will provide care. For some, having saved $250,000 for world travel is a resource. For others, the desire to spend retirement modestly at a fishing camp or camp at a state park, that's a resource. An exercise program is a resource. Membership in a civic group is a resource. Being involved in your church is a resource. Being okay with working part-time in retirement is a resource. A bank account is a resource, and so is being debt-free. Close ties to children and grandchildren, that's a resource. Thrift is a resource. Sharing financial decisions with a spouse, it's a resource. A charitable cause is a resource. Good nutrition is a resource, as well as a quality physician. Friends are a resource, as is a desire to help others. Not accepting that aging matters is a resource. Let's say that together. Not accepting that aging matters is a resource. So ask yourself, what are my resources? I've listed a few. Be thorough in your study. The process will help you to understand not only what you have, but what you need to develop to have a quality retirement. Examine your life, socially, spiritually, recreationally, with your health, with your family, and how you give back. What I'm talking about is your Super Bowl statement of net worth. Take stock. Be creative with your list. If you find it to be short, get busy. I want to close with some words by the German Renaissance philosopher Goethe. And Goethe asked this question. He said, "Are you in earnest? Seize this very moment. What you can do or dream that you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic within it. Only engage, and then the mind grows heated. Begin, and then your task will be completed." And remember, friends, you want to retire to something, not from something. I want you to think not so much in terms of years in life, but in terms of life in years. Quality retirement is absolutely what you make of it. Question for you. How will you personally create quality of life for your retirement? Get going with it. No study on retirement would be complete without including the oh so important conversation about health and healthcare in retirement. Let me ask you, what's your most important asset? We all possess it. It involves the same value for all of us. Of course, your health is your most important asset, right? And in retirement, it's especially important because more than ever, health is directly related to quality of life. Consider the era of medicine we live in, and you can easily see the importance of health in retirement. For instance, the advancements of robotics in surgery over the last decade, wow. So much is done with robotics and much more is on the way. In fact, here's a staggering statistic. Everything medical science knows doubles every 7 years. Medical science is rapidly moving towards being able to manipulate your DNA for the healing process. The DNA code is broken, and the amount of information they have access to is amazing. Here's an example of it. Imagine 66 volumes of World Book Encyclopedia. Now that's 3 sets. They have the ability to open one volume, open one page, and change one word. That's where they are in understanding and manipulating the DNA code. These advances were only dreams not long ago. So it's not much of a stretch to count on the advancements in healthcare that we'll experience and be able to take advantage of if we stay healthy and we can pay for it. Your health club membership may actually be the best investment of your life. Exercise, diet, stress, habits, and how you manage them will be a big part of a successful retirement. I'm not going to pull any punches about the cost. According to research by Fidelity, a couple will spend on average $245,000 on healthcare and retirement. Some studies show that it's a bigger expense than housing and recreation combined. And we need to consider that the rate of inflation for healthcare is 5.5%. My point about your health club membership being your best investment may be one of the most important things you take away from this conversation we're having. Now, Medicare is a key area of healthcare that you'll need to manage. It's important that you enroll on time, as failure to do so will cost you forever. You have a window of 7 months to enroll, including your birthday month, the 3 months preceding your birthday month, and the 3 months after. That is, unless you continue to work after you become eligible for Medicare and stay on your company health plan, and that company has more than 20 employees. If that's the case, and if that's you, you have up to 8 months to enroll in Medicare after your employer coverage ends. Penalties for not enrolling on time affect your premiums for the rest of your life. In fact, Medicare B Part B carries a penalty of 10% per year for late enrollment, and Part D has a 1% penalty for every year you delay. Now, you pay no premiums for Part A, as you paid for those during your working years. However, Part B requires a premium which is withheld from your Social Security benefit. For 2020, Part B minimum premium is $134 a month, but it is means-based, and it can be as high as $461 a month. Part A covers in-hospital services. Part B covers outpatient services. Most people enrolled in basic Medicare usually add a Part D prescription drug plan as well. Medicare Advantage plans are sold by private insurers like Humana and People's Choice, and they manage Part A, Part B, and most include prescription drug benefits. Some plans offer benefits like dental and vision, which aren't covered by Medicare. With Advantage plans, members pay the standard Part B premium and an additional plan premium, but they don't need a separate Medigap or prescription drug policy. In exchange for benefits and lower out-of-pocket costs, Advantage plans require a certain network of doctors and hospitals, and they may well require pre-approval to see a specialist. Open enrollment and the ability to change Advantage plans happens annually from October 15th through December 7th. Here are a couple of great resources for you to use in examining Medicare. First, the National Council on Aging offers online guidance and provides a process to help you compare Medicare Advantage plans. Also, Medicare counseling is available through a Louisiana Department of Insurance program called SHIP, which stands for State Health Insurance Program. SHIP is a fantastic resource on Medicare and Advantage plans, and after all, it's your tax dollars at work, so utilize it. Call them and they will counsel you on Medicare and Advantage plans. Another major component in retirement health care is long-term care. I mentioned medical science keeping us alive longer, so lifespans are increasing. However, because of this, the need to be taken care of is increasing also. Long-term care planning is absolutely necessary for secure retirement planning. Everybody needs a long-term care plan. The plan may be with a spouse, it may be with one of your children, you may self-insure, or you may use an insurance company. But everyone needs a long-term care plan. Here's some perspective on long-term care. About 7 in 10 Americans, or 69%, turning age 65 today, will need at some point in their lives some type of long-term care services, either at home, in their community, or in some type of facility. Now, these statistics come from the Administration for Community Living, which is part of the Department of Health and Human Resources. And while 1/3 of people who are 65 may never need long-term care, 25% will need it for longer than 5 years. Medicaid provides long-term care, but it's only available at the poverty level, which means having and possessing less than $10,000 in assets. Now, the insurance industry has become very creative in long-term care solutions. A popular form of long-term care is an annuity that leverages up a lump sum deposit to pay long-term care expenses. So an example of that would be you deposit $100,000 into the annuity contract, and the contract pays out $150,000 in long-term care benefits. Now, this approach is attractive to some because in the event that they don't require the long-term care, the annuity deposit is returned to an heir. Another form is life insurance that serves a dual purpose. In the event of the need for long-term care during life, the death benefit is paid out in the form of a living benefit. This is appealing to some because one way or another, through the long-term care benefit being paid during life or the death benefit at death, a benefit is surely paid in exchange for premiums paid in. Let's face it, boomers are fiercely independent and they don't want to be dependent on their children. So the type questions to ask yourself regarding long-term care, questions such as, who will change my light bulbs? How will I get an ice cream cone? Who will I have lunch with? Remember, friends, not everyone needs long-term care insurance, but everyone needs a long-term care plan. Now, I want to mention the importance of developing a good working relationship with the family or primary care doctor as you approach retirement. One you can relate to and trust and manage your overall health care. Allowing the doctor to get to know you and your history well in advance goes a long way in receiving the best of care at a critical time. It's just a smart thing to invest time in as you plan for and enter your retirement. So I want to ask you straight up. I want to ask you flat out, as we say in the South, what value do you place on your most important asset? What are you doing now to experience the best health that you can? I mentioned in the section on income planning that income planning is the heart is the heart of retirement planning, because income is what makes everything else possible. Truth is, without health, nothing else is possible. We actually have the opportunity to impact the quality of health in retirement, and more than most of us will care to admit. I want to encourage you to be all that you can be in this. I firmly believe that it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that matters. Wealth eroding forces constantly serve to take from the inattentive and the unwise. Taxes are second only to misplaced risk as the top wealth eroding force for retirees. As a citizen, taxes are unavoidable. However, reducing and eliminating them legally is not only a right, but it's a responsibility. Here are several issues, I call them landmines, involving taxes in retirement that are worthy for us to examine. Who's heard of the phrase provisional income? It's a tax term. While you were working, you had earned income. In retirement, it's titled provisional income. Provisional income is income from such things as pensions, dividends on stock, capital gains on stock, distributions from mutual funds, interest on bonds, CDs, and savings accounts. Provisional income is income that comes from distributions from your IRAs and 401ks. Most of your income in retirement is classified as provisional income. The more provisional income you receive, the higher your taxes will be. The more deliberate and strategic that you can be in managing the flow of provisional income, the more money you'll save and the better off you'll be. If you don't need it, slow the cash flow or eliminate it by using tax-deferred, tax-preferenced, or tax-free investments such as stocks that are subject to capital gains only at the time of sale, municipal bonds that provide tax-free income, annuities which allow for tax-deferred growth, and Roth IRAs in where growth is tax-free forever, best of all worlds. Managing provisional income is key to tax success in retirement. Another issue involving provisional income is Social Security. You may be surprised, even a little bit upset to learn that your Social Security benefits are taxed. They're taxed if you have provisional income beginning at $25,000 for a single person and $32,000 for a couple. And up to 85% of your benefit is subject to tax. Anything that you can do to reduce provisional income and to reduce your tax bracket, the less your Social Security benefit will be taxed. Let's talk a little about a cost affiliated with Medicare, the premiums. This chart reflects Medicare premiums. Medicare premiums are means-based, and they're based on your income for the remainder of your life. The initial premium is calculated based on your adjusted gross income 2 years before you actually start paying premiums. So you have to be careful to avoid increased income in that year if at all possible. A bonus, exercising stock options at age 63 are examples that could lead to higher Medicare premiums in retirement. If you're deliberate with your income timing leading up to retirement and in retirement, you may well be able to reduce your Medicare premiums substantially over your lifetime. Speaking of tax-free investments, let's get back to one of the best, Roth IRA. But I want to talk specifically about Roth IRA conversion. You convert your IRA or 401k to Roth IRA by going ahead and paying the taxes on it now. I say going ahead and paying the taxes now because you have to pay taxes on it sooner or later. There's no way around it. It absolutely is a pay now or pay later situation. Some benefits of Roth conversion are owning a tax-free asset for income flexibility that allows for tax diversification, avoiding required minimum distributions at age 72, minimizing your Medicare premiums, creating a tax-free asset to pass on to your heirs. That's tax-free forever. The power of the conversion is in the tax-free growth. Roth conversion questions to ask yourself are, where will tax rates likely be in the future? What will tax rates be like for me in the future? How much can I convert to maximize my tax bracket before entering into a higher one? And do I have non-IRA cash on hand to pay the tax? Also regarding Roth accounts, if you're still working, you should estimate what your likely brackets will be in retirement to figure out if traditional or Roth IRA contributions make more sense to you now. I'm talking about your uniqueness and your unique identity once again. I want to point out that business owners should consider converting to a Roth, because my experience has been is that business owners, they never really retire. They may slow down working in the business. They may have somebody else to come in and take over for them, but they never really give up the income from the business. And that ongoing income, plus those added required minimum distributions that start at age 72, just push you into a higher tax bracket. So it's definitely to your favor to look at Roth conversion, Mr. Business Owner. If you have company stock in your 401k, you should investigate NUA, which stands for Net Unrealized Appreciation, well in advance before you retire. If done correctly, NUA reduces the tax that you pay when you eventually sell that stock and provides a much more tax-efficient asset for your heirs. I want to warn you, though, you need to talk to someone who knows about NUA and specializes in it. I can help you with that if you need help. So is the old saying, death and taxes are certain, really true? Yes, but in retirement with attention and a little effort, you can have considerable influence over both of them. Do you have sources to help manage your taxes in retirement? $1 saved in taxes is $1 in your pocket. I want to close on taxes by reminding you that it's not so much how much you make as how much you keep that matters. Recapturing lost money to taxes is a great way to grow in this. Social Security has been a piece of your retirement puzzle that you've been developing for your entire career. You'll want to make sure that you maximize it based on your particular situation. How you take Social Security is a very significant decision. It's an important asset for a lot of reasons. It's important because it's a readily available guaranteed income, source of income that you can't outlive. It's important because it increases over time based on inflation. No annuity, stock, or bond other than a Treasury inflation-protected TIP bond is what they're called, that you could buy does that. Very few assets increase with inflation. Social Security does. Here's a biggie. You paid for it all during your working years, so you should definitely make it work for you and utilize it as best as you can. Social Security retirement benefits are based on your record of earnings over your highest 35 years of Social Security covered work. It's basically determined on your average earnings. The number of years up to 35 years matters, as well as what your wages were. So working another year or two during your highest earning years can definitely make a difference in the payment that you receive. This average of 35 years composes what's called your PIA, or primary insurance amount, which is the maximum benefit for your Social Security age, and that varies based on the year that you were born. For instance, I was born in 1956, and my Social Security retirement age is 66 and 4 months. And so full retirement age is between 66 and 67 for all of us boomers. But you can claim benefits as early as age 62, in which case you'll receive 25% less than your full retirement benefit. On the other hand, you can delay benefits after full retirement age until age 70, and your benefit increases by 8% per year to top out at 132% of your full retirement benefit. The decision to take it at age 62, at full retirement age, or delay it and maximize it at age 70 is highly personal based on your unique situation. Facts to consider are your personal health. Is longevity common in your family? What type of advances in healthcare do you think that we'll experience in the future? What are your income sources? What other assets do you have? What effect will they have on your Social Security and when you take it? Whether or not you're going to continue to work after full retirement age. What your spouse's benefits are, if survivor benefits come into play, and your unique tax situation. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to determining when you're going to take Social Security. When you decide to take it is important because you may just deny yourself benefits, deny your spouse benefits, deny them survivor benefits. You may subject yourself to unnecessary taxes and spend your other assets ineffectively. When you take it is very, very personal, and the reasons behind your decision are unique to everyone listening. That decision should be well thought out and a part of your overall financial plan. Now, if you continue to work after you begin to take Social Security, so let's just say you start taking Social Security at age 62, but you continue to be employed and earn an income. For every $2 you earn, up to $18,240, your Social Security benefit is reduced by $1. Now, in the year that you reach full retirement age, your Social Security benefit is reduced by $1 for every $3 that you earn. After your age of full retirement, Social Security retirement, earned income does not reduce Social Security benefits at all. Now, if you're a stay-at-home spouse and you don't work outside the home, you're eligible for the greater of your benefit or half of your spouse's benefit as long as your spouse has claimed their benefit. If your spouse predeceases you, you're eligible for the greater of their benefit or your benefit. And if you're divorced, you're eligible to file for benefits based on your ex-spouse's earnings record as long as you were married for 10 years. Friends, I can't stress the importance of getting Social Security right based on who you are and what works best for your unique situation. You'll want to consider your assets and how they'll impact your Social Security and the effect Social Security will have on them. How can you coordinate other growth and stable income sources you have to maximize your Social Security? What effect will Social Security have on your unique tax situation, and how can you minimize the taxes? How does longevity affect your decision on when to begin taking Social Security? How might and when you take Social Security affect your estate planning and the protection for your surviving spouse? How do you feel about the reliability of Social Security in the long term? What factors come into play about your spouse's Social Security benefit that affect decisions about your Social Security? Friends, Social Security is an important benefit. You want to take it seriously. You want to maximize it based on who you are. I have software and planning experience to help you to get it right. Proper estate planning is often overlooked until later in life. While planning for your retirement, it's a good time for you to get it right, for both your benefit as well as the benefit of your loved ones. In managing retirement assets, we talked about the accumulation phase and the utilization phase. Now let's talk about the phase that involves transferring assets to family members and heirs. I want to begin by saying that there definitely is a better time to get these details taken care of than others. And that's before you need it, because when you need it, if it's not done, it's too late. So regarding estate planning, yesterday was the best time to do it. I want to point out that estate law in Louisiana is different than any other state because it's based on the Napoleonic Code, which our founders used to write the laws. Now, 4 legal tools you'll need for basic estate planning are 1, a will, power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and a living will. Let's go through all of those individually. The will is important because it declares and validates how you want your final affairs to be handled and your assets to be distributed. A will assures that your surviving spouse has the ability to control the community property assets that y'all accumulated during your marriage. Without a correctly structured will providing usufruct, the surviving spouse may well not have control over the community property. An effectively structured will provides for maximum protection from federal estate taxes. A will can contain a testamentary trust in order to protect children from having to manage what you leave behind. And a will prevents any disputes or ill will between your heirs, or at least it goes a long way in doing that. And this is a real big thing to give to your children and your grandchildren. Now, power of attorney gives someone else the legal right to act on your behalf financially if you can't. It's a very good idea for spouses to have this for each other, or for one of your responsible children to have this for you. Without it, your spouse or your child may have to go through the courts to get the right to act on your behalf financially, and that's just not a process you're going to want them to have to go through at a critical time. A medical power of attorney authorizes another party to make medical decisions for you, including end-of-life decisions, if you become incapacitated or otherwise can't make these type decisions. A living will makes your wishes known when it comes to life-prolonging medical treatment. It takes the form of a directive as it becomes part of your medical chart for your physician to appropriately use. It protects your family from having to make difficult, perhaps hard decisions at an already challenging time. And it's yet another valuable service you provide your family. At the end of the day, creating these estate planning tools is really just a gift to them. I think it's important to mention living trust. I meet people who have them from time to time, and I get a lot of questions about them. The purpose of a living trust is to avoid probate. At least that's the purpose of it in Louisiana. Basically, what you do is during your life, you transfer all of your assets into the trust. Now, I'm not an attorney and I can't give legal advice. But my experience has been that quality estate attorneys will tell you that if you have your affairs in order, probate's not a big deal. And the living trust actually aren't easy to maintain and take care of. It looks to me like some attorneys make a living promoting living trust. Friends, effective estate planning is what quality people do, and it's one of the signs of a well-lived life. Taking the time to accomplish the basic details of estate planning is really just about right living, and it provides a security and a big gift to your family and heirs. Through the years, I've discovered certain and common, what I call pitfalls, perils, money falling through the cracks. I talked a lot about efficiency and maximizing resources because by doing so, just that, great value could be gained. It's looking at lost opportunity cost and ways to recapture. I just want to reiterate something that I said in another one of the workshops in this series. By not losing, we gain. It's just that simple, friends. First, let's take a look at low rate of return issues and idle money that's fallen through the cracks. Well, first of all, there's a problem when you have too much liquidity, too much money in cash, too much money in bank-type assets like savings accounts, money markets, and CDs. Oh, it's necessary to have a solid financial cushion. You know, to have that safety zone of cash on hand that you feel comfortable with. But be reasonable about it. Put the rest of the money to work into something that matches your long-term objectives. A great way to assist you in this is by maintaining a home equity line of credit. If you have a home equity line of credit that's open at all times, that gives you access to $50,000, $75,000, then you don't have to maintain so much in cash in savings accounts in the bank, things like that have low yields on them. You can put that money to work instead. So check out that home equity line of credit. A third one is holding on to matured savings bonds. I'm sure a lot of you have savings bonds that you bought for your children, that you're holding on to in a bank box, perhaps savings bonds that your parents bought for you. Cash those puppies in. Put them to work into something that's going to grow for you long time, in the long term, and give you some serious opportunity. Don't hold on to them. It's dead weight in your portfolio. And then finally, owning unmanaged and disregarded coin and stamp collections. I know some of you have coin and stamp collections that you've inherited from relatives over the past that you really have no interest in. You don't really have much of an understanding of what's going on in those collections. Get rid of them. Find a reputable dealer. I can help you with that if you need that. But there's no point in you holding on to them. They're only going to be a bigger burden to your children when they inherit them than they are to you. So take action. Do something new with that asset. Here are some pitfalls that are due to careless portfolio strategy. I've talked a lot about the first one, not maintaining a portfolio that matches who you are based on your objectives and your particular risk tolerances. Here I'm back again to the conversation about your financial identity. What makes you tick financially. Make sure that all of your cylinders are firing together, and that everything that you are doing financially is working in unison. That's only going to happen if you have your financial identity correct. Secondly, trying to time the market. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely buying opportunities that we should take advantage of from time to time. But as far as trying to time the market and move in and out of the market in major ways, sooner or later it will catch you. It will bite you. So avoid that. The third is forced sale of assets at an inappropriate time because of unplanned experience in your life, like a disability or a death or, perhaps losing your job. And so, friends, this is just a nuance of poor planning and lack of foresight. It all goes back to the power of the plan. And the last point here is not continuing to try to grow assets for your entire life. I've seen this time and time again, so much lost opportunity that people experience because they weren't being growth-oriented enough when they had a long-term objective. And so, that chart of the S&P 500 that's in front of you there says it all. It's a rough and rocky ride, but it's definitely an upward trend, and it's going to continue to be that as time goes by. This next slide talks about examples of money falling through the cracks that involves fees and charges. And hey, friends, there are fees. We can't get around fees necessarily, but we can work to make sure that we're paying competitive fees, like brokerage fees, management fees, transaction fees on investments. Then there are bank fees, penalties and late fees that you might pay on insurance premiums or overdraft fees, penalties, late fees to the IRS. It just pays to focus on this, friends. It all adds up. It all adds up at the end of the day. And then how you structure your insurance premiums. There's a big difference between what insurance companies charge based on the method of payment that you use. So you need to carefully consider that from the various companies that you own and that you use. The final one is a real big issue, but it involves having low deductibles on your homeowners and your automobile when you can, in fact, afford to have higher deductibles and self-insure. And so, the older we get, the less accident prone we get and things like that. And so just make sure that you don't have money falling through the cracks on ineffective ways that you're managing your deductibles on your insurance. Here are unnecessary perils involving estate and charitable planning. Now I'm talking to y'all about this. However, it may be your parents who actually have the most exposure here. So good idea to check with your parents if they're elderly to make sure that they have, made provisions for their estate and so forth and so on. So, but first of all, it's obvious not having a will or having a will that's out of date. Estate laws change frequently. They are political tools, and estate laws change frequently. So not making sure that you're up to date on current law in your will. Not having up-to-date beneficiaries. I hope this will jog and prompt some of y'all watching this to think, I wonder if I changed my beneficiaries based on perhaps a divorce or perhaps some other issue that involves a family matter. But I see that quite often. I see minor children that are beneficiaries, which is a huge no-no. And then I see a lot of times a former spouse that will still be a beneficiary on a life insurance or a 401k or a pension plan, so forth and so on. So make sure that your beneficiaries are up to date. The third is assuming that a living trust solves a lot of taxes and transfer problems. I run into a lot of people who have living trusts. I'm going to talk more about living trust in our section on estate planning, but quality estate attorneys will tell you that for the most part, they're not necessary. The fourth one talks about not donating IRS assets directly to a charity to minimize taxes. Several years ago, the IRS changed the laws on required minimum distributions, and they now allow you to transfer that distribution directly to a qualified charity of your choice, rather than you taking receipt of it, paying taxes on it, and then making a donation to the charity. This is a much more effective way for you to give and to receive as well, because of the tax benefits that are available to you if you do it in this manner. And the last point on estate planning is not teaching your children about Stretch IRA. Stretch IRA is a great way for them to extend the tax benefits of tax deferred growth when they inherit your IRAs. And I'm talking about traditional IRAs here, not Roth IRAs. But that's something that you'll need to speak to your children about, before you pass away, because they'll have to make that election themselves when they inherit that asset. But to that point of not teaching your children about Stretch IRA, I just want to make the point, it's a serious oversight to not teach your children about estate planning, and to not bring your children up to speed and into the know about what your affairs are as far as what your wishes are with your estate and so forth and so on. It just does great things for families if they have a roundtable discussion about that type thing before it's needed. Our next slide talks about, here's a list of miscellaneous pitfalls that I've seen. Not being strategic with Social Security. Wow, what a no-no that is. I mean, Social Security is a powerful asset. You paid a lot of money for it. You should definitely maximize the benefits in your planning. The second is failing to effectively manage cash value life insurance. You know, cash value life insurance can be a very powerful asset. There are ways to withdraw and to borrow from those policies that are income tax free, and they can be a serious benefit in your retirement income plan if you know how to use them. Third is not periodically shopping your auto and homeowners insurance. You know, from time to time, every 3 or 4 years, shop it out. Look for more competitive rates. That's just money in your pocket that you'll be retaining if you do that. This is a biggie. Failing for both spouses to not be involved in finances. It's so tragic, and I've seen it a few times in my career where only one spouse is in the know about the finances and they pass away, and the surviving spouse is in the dark and really just hamstrung, if you will, about their financial world. It adds such a burden that doesn't have to be there. So in some way, shape, or form or fashion, both spouses definitely need to be involved in the finances, particularly as you age. Reverse mortgage planning. Reverse mortgages have changed a lot in the last 5 years because of government regulation. Government got involved in a good way with reverse mortgages, so they can be a lifesaver for people who need to use those assets to sustain their lifestyle. So check out reverse mortgages, and you can consider them as being a part of your retirement plan. Pension maximization is a concept that would apply to you if you have a pension, and I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but if you do have access to a pension and you haven't retired yet, it'll pay you a lot to look into pension maximization strategy. I'll just say that. You need a specialist in that. I'm happy to help you if you'll give me a call. And then finally, not maximizing credit card use and credit card benefits. You know, credit cards can either be our friend or our foe. It's just that simple. And the system is that either we use them or they use us, and we can use them to great benefit. So if you'd like to have a conversation with me about strategies on that, I'm happy to talk to you about that. And then finally, I have a list here of what I consider to be dream killers. Okay, these are dream killers. So I just want to run through them. First of all is lack of a dream. Second only, followed by lack of a plan. Not taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Procrastination. One of the biggest mistakes in managing finances is procrastination. Next is unwillingness to adapt and accept as you age. You know, we move into different eras in life. I talked about accumulation era, utilization era, and then transference era. So think about that. Not cutting your children off financially, you know, when they're adult children, and not fostering financial independence. It's a benefit to them. It's a blessing to them if you'll undertake that. It's good for them. It may be hard for you to do, but it's going to be good for everybody ultimately when you take steps to do that. And then a biggie is outliving your money, and that's just a nuance of impractical planning. And then finally, too much media and fake news. I probably don't need to remind you of that. It's just, it's oppressive. I don't know any other way to say it. So turn that news off. Final question. Do you have areas where money is falling through the cracks? Are there pitfalls, perils, or dream killers that you need to address? Or, you know, all of these issues are solvable, friends. Where is the inefficiency in your personal finances? It all adds up. Every dollar adds up, and it all matters. Let me encourage you in this. You can have some serious fun looking for and managing the pitfalls, perils, and the dream killers that are unique to your life. Go for it. Take on the challenge. Obviously, y'all are looking for information for your benefit. You're looking for answers. So I'll close by speaking about something near and dear to me, getting help, because I like help, and I've learned to count on what help provides. It frees me, so I call the plumber. You can certainly go it alone when it comes to managing your retirement. You can also do it yourself when it comes to plumbing, auto repair, or representing yourself in court. Doing it yourself may be brilliant for some, but it's disastrous for others. Effective retirement planning requires research and study, and a lot of it on an ongoing basis. For most people, it's not worth the time and energy that it takes to actually get it right. I'm about to tell you how to get help and who to look for help. By all means, it doesn't have to be me. I created this workshop to exercise my creative flow, and I definitely do believe that knowledge is power. But when you find help, it doesn't necessarily have to be me. You may want a female planner. You may want a younger planner. You may want someone from your ethnic background. The point is, get good help. A retirement planner will assist you and help you to get on and stay on the right track. They help you maintain discipline about your strategies. And they help you to separate your emotions from your financial decisions. And this can be a big thing and come into play and be very critical at important times. A retirement planner helps you to make appropriate decisions, and they make necessary changes for your benefit. Let's face it, procrastination can cause all kinds of money problems. It just pays to have someone guiding you to stay on track. And having someone experienced to talk with face to face, it's invaluable. Choosing a planner who's gained quality credentials is important, as anyone can claim they're a retirement planner. Putting in effort to achieve credentials proves credibility, and it established the fact that they're education-oriented. Credentials likely require that a planner utilize a formal process. Processes are important. Examples of credentials are certified financial planner, personal financial specialist, certified financial analyst, and chartered retirement planning counselor. Credentials are a strong indicator of the advisor's willingness to learn what it takes to provide good advice. The requirements are strenuous and they involve commitment. After certification, there's ongoing continuing education to keep the designation. This furthers the knowledge of the planner and requires them to stay current and up to date. Designations are important. Find an advisor who operates as a fiduciary. This means the person has pledged to act in a client's best interest at all times. Advisors who aren't fiduciaries are held to a lesser standard of advice as being just suitable or merely suitable, not necessarily in a client's best interest. This is critical and should be a deal breaker if the person giving retirement advice doesn't act as a fiduciary. Reputation is important in choosing an advisor for your retirement security, and the Louisiana Department of Insurance maintains a list of agents who have been convicted of inappropriate business actions. Anyone providing financial advice is required to license through the governmental agency FINRA and maintain a U4 form. At FINRA's website, you can view an advisor's U4 form, which shows their work history and reveals any regulatory problems that they've been in the past. FINRA also maintains a website called BrokerCheck with information about advisors who have been fined for regulatory issues. I want to encourage you to interview a number of planners to find one who you feel comfortable with. What they offer should be comprehensive, well-defined, and make sense to you. The planner should have a formal process to measure your progress, and they should be open about fees. Ask for references to others whose goals are similar to yours. Above all, you should feel a sense of trust about the person advising you. Could you use help in developing and maximizing your retirement? I've enjoyed sharing information that I believe can be useful to you as you plan your retirement. It's been a blast. I've had a lot of fun. I've developed these ideas and strategies over 35 years of helping others like yourselves to achieve their dreams and goals. And so I hope you've learned a lot. But I've just scratched the surface on these topics. It's important that you find a good planner and take a deep dive into all these topics as to how they relate to you and your unique circumstances. If you want to speak further, I'm happy to help. Have a great retirement, and God bless you.